So today we're doing something a little different. We're not just exploring some fictional world. Nope. We are tracing the entire 4-year biography of a civilization, how it went from this quiet, silent idea to a full-blown, living universe. Let's get into it.
And it all starts with this one question, right? How is a world actually born? The story of Arreqqana, man, it gives us this incredible answer. It lays out this whole 4-year journey, taking us from just a tiny spark all the way to a society you can almost touch.
And that quote you're looking at, that's where it all begins. See, Arreqqana wasn't built with, bricks and mortar. It started with a vibe, a feeling, an atmosphere, a resonance. It was this spiritual idea way before it was ever a physical place. Okay, so this whole process, it unfolds over this really clear 4-year master timeline. We're going to walk through each phase together. Ignition, expansion, sovereignty, and then continuity. You're going to see exactly how this silent, sacred realm grows up and becomes a living, breathing civilization. Think of this as the roadmap to how a universe gets its heartbeat.
All right, let's start at the beginning. Year 1, 2024. They call it the ignition. This was the quiet part, the very beginning. It's that moment when the core idea wasn't just, thought up, it was given a name, a sacred identity. I love this metaphor, a temple without a city. It's the perfect way to think about this first year. Arreqqana was there, but as this spiritual, philosophical space. Like, the blueprints for a cathedral were drawn, the soul was there, but nobody had moved in yet. The soul of the world was literally formed before any of its citizens showed up. And this is where they made these huge, foundational decisions that would shape everything, and I mean everything that came later. It's like the cultural DNA was being written. Think about this. Power wasn't about brute force. It was about composure. Language, a sacred act. And silence? Silence wasn't empty. It was a form of authority. This set up a culture of deep intention right from the get-go. So, the tone for 2024? Fire in a dark room. It's brilliant, right? It's not a raging wildfire. It's a single, controlled, really intentional flame. The whole vibe was mystical, sacred, just heavy with purpose. It really feels like they were carving these intricate pillars for a massive cathedral, long before anyone was ever invited inside.
Okay, buckle up, because now we hit 2025, and that single, quiet flame just erupts. This is the expansion era. If 2024 was all quiet and intentional, 2025 is the polar opposite. It is a loud, colorful, just maximalist explosion of creation.
And the contrast here is just wow. So stark. 2025 is described as expansion at mythic velocity, like just opening portals and leaving them all hanging. It was just pure, messy, volcanic creation. And this is so important because it totally sets the stage for what happens in 2026, when all of this wild, chaotic energy finally gets reined in.
And what was the result of all that? Well, the cosmos got crowded. Suddenly, Arreqqana wasn't this sacred, empty temple anymore. It was a bustling, jam-packed universe. It stopped being symbolic and started being filled with actual people, families, voices, and different cultures.
This expansion was happening on literally every level, just exploding outwards. The language got fleshed out with verbs, slang, dialects, stuff that made it feel real. The cosmology got deeper, with new goddess structures and life paths. And those simple character ideas, they blossomed into these huge family networks with rivalries, histories, even regional accents. It got dense fast.
And this is huge. The world got a soundtrack. It got an aesthetic. We're talking songs, chants, trailers, even fashion houses, and its own cosmetics brands and UI systems. Arreqqana started to look and sound alive. It wasn't just a place you could read about anymore. It was a world you could actually see and hear. So, after that just wild, chaotic surge of 2025 comes year 3, sovereignty. This is the year the world grows up. It took all of that explosive energy, took a deep breath, and learned how to rule itself, deliberately, with control. This phrase right here sums up the shift perfectly. Less noise, more presence. All that explosive creative energy, it calmed down into this quiet consolidation. The world wasn't shouting, "Look at me," anymore. It just was. And its authority now came from that powerful presence, not from some big show.
And this idea became a core philosophy, calm authority. It's all about a kind of power that doesn't need to react. It finds its strength in emotional sovereignty, in strategic silence. And listen, this wasn't just some abstract concept. It was a totally necessary response to the chaos of 2025. It was how they kept this new civilization from just burning itself out. This one principle shaped absolutely everything.
But here's the kicker. It wasn't just a philosophical change. This was when Arreqqana made a massive leap into digital realism. We're talking its own apps, its own chat systems, telecom structures, encryption, a whole digital economy. It basically became a parallel modern civilization with its very own unique tech.
And you can see just how deliberate and planned this all was. I mean, after the creative free-for-all of 2025, this year, 2026 was all about structure, about imposing order. They started by stabilizing the tone, right? Then they built out that digital infrastructure we just talked about. Then they unified the whole look and feel, the cinematic identity. And finally, they integrated everything into one cohesive, functioning whole. So methodical.
Which brings us to the final phase, projected for 2027, continuity. So, they've built the world, they've stabilized it, and now? Now it's time to flip the on switch. This is the year the world starts living its own life, on its own schedule.
This is the moment everything changes. Arreqqana goes from being this static creation to a dynamic, living world. It's not just a backdrop for stories anymore. Now, time actually passes. Seasons change. Stuff can happen whether someone is watching or not. This is where history really, truly begins to stack up. So, what does that actually mean in practice? Well, it means a living calendar system with holidays and events. It means in-world news cycles. You could tune in to a broadcast and hear about what happened yesterday. Characters will actually age and evolve. The world is just running every single day, whether we're paying attention or not.
Okay, so let's pull back for a second and just look at the whole arc. This 4-year transformation is amazing. It's a journey that takes us from a whispered myth all the way to a living memory. It's literally the full biography of a universe.
If you boil it all down, this is the 4-step rise. First, it was a sacred realm, just an idea, a philosophy. Then that philosophy needed a home, so it got filled with people, becoming a populated world. That chaotic, messy world was then given rules and tech, maturing into an operational state. And finally, you flip the switch on time and it becomes a real, honest-to-goodness living civilization.
In this final quote, man, it just nails it. The realm is no longer forming, it is living. History has begun. The creation part is done. The world is standing on its own 2 feet now, and all those blank pages of its history are finally starting to be written.
You know, the story of Arreqqana really shows us that a universe doesn't have to start with a big bang. It can start with a quiet hum, a resonance, a philosophy that grows into a single steady flame. So I guess it leaves us all with a pretty cool question to think about. If you were going to build a world, how would you start? With the quiet contemplation of a sacred temple? Or would you go for the chaotic, explosive energy of a big bang?